Hello and welcome to Commodity Champions, your weekly dose of what's brewing in the commodity space. I am Manisha Gupta. Let's start the show with a quick recap of what the week that was for the commodities. And the glut concerns remain for the crude oil, where we have seen a weekly and a monthly decline continue for this one. 50 has not been able to hold on for the US crude oil prices, and the decline in US crude is much more than what you have seen for Brent, and that has been after the Hurricane Harvey did damage and has shut down 1/5 of refining capacity in US. But the safe haven demand continued to support the gold and silver prices, where on a weekly and monthly basis, we are trading in the positive here. Also, the US dollar has been weak. The markets are factoring in the fact that you will not see yet another interest rate hike in this year, and that has been supportive. But what takes the cake away clearly has been the metal space. The China demand has boosted this sector on the higher side. There have been supply concerns. You also have seen positive economic data, not just from China, but from Europe and US as well. And that's led to double-digit gains in last 1 month in all of those metals there. But moving on now to our main discussion, and that is on this week's Commodity Champion. It has been a stormy week for the agriculture space. Below normal and erratic rains could potentially impact farm output, dashing hopes of higher yields. This season, monsoon wreaked havoc in the second half of this month, causing floods across Bihar, Assam, Gujarat, and other cities like Bengaluru and Mumbai as well. And yet, the countrywide rainfall figures at the end of the month have a deficiency by 4% as compared to 3% in the same month last year as well. The sowing number is also lower than expected. Total area sown under kharif crops, rice, pulses, coarse cereals and oil seeds is lagging behind by 5.7 lakh hectare. So far, even as the window for planting is ongoing, the kharif season is approaching a closure. So how does the effect on the farmers? Will erratic rains have any impact on prices of pulses? Joining us to have this discussion further is Abhijit Sen, who's professor at JNU. We also are joined by B.V. Mehta, who's ED at the Solvent Extractor Association of India, and Praveen Dongre is chairman of India Pulses and Grains Association. Gentlemen, hi, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with you, Professor Sen, and while of course the monsoon has been erratic, what is your reading as of now of the sown crop and of course the acreage numbers as well?
Well, as far as pulses are concerned, last year was a huge record. In many ways, it was an outlier. So don't expect output to be of that magnitude as the one we saw last year. As far as the rains are concerned, the situation as of now is almost exactly the same on national readings as last year. There are obviously regional variations, and there are some variations on its temporal variation. Pulses are doing better than I would have expected given the price movements which had taken place up to the beginning of the sowing season. However, there will be some losses because of excess moisture. For the other crops, I would still wait and see. Yeah, sorry?
So, no, Doctor,
for the other crops, I'd still wait and see. I think you probably will.
Go on, sir.
Sorry, go ahead. You're asking a question.
Dr. Sen, that exactly was my next question really on, while of course the sowing numbers are less than the previous year, how much of a concern is there about the yields, the productivity and of course quality? Is that a big one as according to you?
See, on that I think it's too early to say anything. And no, I mean I would really say that we're looking ahead at a harvest where we can't at this stage say a thing about rice. We can say that pulses will be a little less than last year, and oilseeds perhaps a little more. I think that's the sort of statement I would make at this point. Your other experts, if they want to come in, I think they should come in at this point, because I can then add on why I think what I'm saying.
Absolutely, sir. That's exactly what I'm going to do, getting Mr. B.V. Mehta in the conversation as well. Mr. Mehta, you heard Dr. Sen, who says that while pulses may not be as good as the previous year, oilseeds definitely have a better chance. What do you have to say on that?
If you look at the acreage data as on 24th August, the overall acreage is down by about 14 lakhs hectare. In case of soybean is about 8 lakh hectares, in a groundnut is about 5 lakh hectare. So if you go, even if it's a normal monsoon compared like last year, the production is bound to go down.
So as compared to previous year, where do you see the numbers, Mr. Mehta? Is it remarkably low? Is there a concern right now with the acreage numbers?
Yes, acreage number is down over 14 lakh hectares, quite low. In spite of the good monsoon, then we must look at why it has gone down. Basically, there is a shift of the acreage from the oilseed to the cotton. Mainly, if you go to Gujarat or Maharashtra, it's a cotton. Everywhere you find the cotton. Last year it was a groundnut. Even the castor area had gone to the groundnut, but this year is a cotton. And simple reason is farmer look at where he is getting a remunerative price or better return. Last year, soybean was below MSP, groundnut was below MSP, and there was no operation from the government to purchase at the MSP. Very skeleton operation took place, and that was the reason farmers losing the interest in the oilseed crop.
Well, that's about oilseeds as well, and the concerns are plenty there. We'll, of course, keep discussing this, but I want to get in a word on pulses from Mr. Dongre as well, who joins us on the show. Mr. Dongre, what is your sense? How do you look at the scenario right now? Of course, our experts, the other experts have been saying on how some numbers are dismal right now, but too early perhaps to get a concern. How would you look at the sowing numbers when it comes to pulses?
Well, as you can see that, the plantings of pigeon peas are up by about 3%, moong and urad are down by about 1–1.5%. So we are more or less at least where we were last year, which was a much larger crop than expected. We had, so the plantings are there, the acreage is in the ground, but I think the spatial and temporal distribution of the monsoons is what we need to watch very closely now on, and if that does happen, then I think we should be looking for a good crop.
Mr. Dongre, if we are looking at a group crop and ample supplies, especially when we are into a festival season, would you say that there is more good news than at least for consumers here, if not so much for the farmer as an industry?
My comments would be that the government is, has to play a balancing act between the consumers and the producers. They have brought some restrictions in imports as far as certain pulses are concerned to ensure that the return to the farmer is good. And at the same time, on the other side, at the retail end, they also have the responsibility to ensure that the prices remain within a certain range and availability continues. I think so far they have got it right. Prices on the raw pulses front have increased. Retail prices were anyway within a range, and we'll see some sort of correction there. So I think the festive season, we should see ample supplies, and demand should match the supplies for the next quarter.
That's good news, of course, to hear. Dr. Sen, getting you back in the conversation, you've heard both our experts on their sectors. What is the sense that you're making right now? Because, we have this conversation year on year or season to season on where are the acreages, where are those prices, what is the government measure at this point in time? Because even that tends to change on a season to season basis.
Look here, we've got 3 people on your program, and there is some difference of opinion on both pulses as well as on oilseeds, as far as what I said at the outset. On the other hand, I think generally something which is coming out from what everyone is saying is that this year is a lot like last year. And last year was a very good year as far as output was concerned. It was a terrible year for the farmers as far as prices were concerned. And I think the situation at the moment is one where I wouldn't stretch my neck out beyond that. I still maintain that we are probably overestimating how good the pulses output would be on the basis of area figures, because there is excess moisture which does reduce pulses yields. And I think on the oilseed side, I'm somewhat more optimistic on the yield front.
Okay. Mr. Mehta, do you want to come in on that? Because as Dr. Sen said, it may not be such a great year, but are you expecting at least better yields, even as the sowing is on the lower side?
No. If you look at the monsoon scenario, particularly Vidarbha and central part of the MP has not received enough rain, the deficit rain, and that may affect the soybean yield. And also, if you look at the acreage is also down. So if you put together acreage down and the yield down, the definitely crop will be lower than last year. In case of soybean, last year the trade estimate was about 105 lakhs. This year, I'm expecting not more than 90 to 95 lakh tons at the moment.
But what's your sense on the government measures which have been taken in the last couple of months for many crops, especially for edible oil sector as well? Would you applaud that? Do you think that has been one supporting factor for the sector?
No, definitely the increase in duty has given a good signal to the farmers. But now increase in duty and also the increase in MSP, the government must see that farmer get a remedy price above the MSP. Now MSP, if we look at the MSP, last year farmer did not get the price and they have to sold below the MSP. This year also, though they increase the duty, the price is moved by about 200 rupees per quintal in case of soybean from 2,850 to now is at 3,050. And the future quotes also showing that the price will maintain somewhere about 3,100 to 3,200 for soybean during November, December. It's a good sign. And definitely, but again I'm repeating, the excess production of the last year has affected the farmers and they have not received the remedy price, and government's machinery was not active to purchase at MSP.
Well, that has been a concern from season to season, of course, but we'll discuss more and all of that with all our guests here on what the government really needs to do and whether or not there is enough availability, especially for the festival season. And of course, we'll get a price view as well after this very short break.